I like to kind of start these events just to give everybody kind of an update of what's going on with Media Commons, where we're at, some of the new things we've done over the last year. And I think a good way to set the stage is to just give you some stats. I think that this kind of gives you in numbers a sense of the scale and the impact that this service has had. And I like doing this little stats thing because these stats do tend to go up every single year. So this is actually a service that's still growing pretty quickly. And just to give you a sense, over the last year, we've had about 3,023 appointments, and that's helping about 10,100 students. So that's a pretty wide impact over the year, over the state. I think that we've really touched a lot of different students, a lot of different majors. So I would say that that's pretty successful, and that's probably up about 15 or 20% since we did the last Tailgate last year. One interesting change is sort of a shift in sort of what we do with our time or how we interact with students. At the campuses over the last year, we've bumped up to doing about 41% workshops, and at the campuses, 56%. At UP, we're doing a lot more of these on-demand workshops, so we're actually going in the classrooms and working with students. And the reason that this is significant for us is we've really identified what the couple of things are that a lot of students really have problems with, and trying to get that into covering that in workshops and initial workshops. And what that does is enable us to really raise the bar for our face-to-face consultations. So we're spending a lot more time covering high-level concepts and teaching narrative structure and how to communicate ideas rather than constantly answering questions about how to back up iMovies. So this kind of strategic thing has allowed us to shift into kind of doing, I think, what's a little bit more important for Media Commons. Website continues to be a huge source of awareness for us. Last year we had about 146,000 visits, 333,000 page views. So people are really using the website as a resource. They're using the website to do active things like scheduling appointments with Media Commons consultants and things like that. So it's a really highly trafficked website, lots of really good resources. And I do want to take the opportunity real quick to announce that we are making some pretty major changes both under the hood and publicly. So you'll start to see those rolled out, and then kind of culminating in a brand new website sometime in spring-ish, Hannah? Spring-ish. Just a kind of a random stat that I think is pretty cool is we installed this presentation practice room in Wagner Building here, kind of as a test for the one-button studio. That's something that Justin's going to show off a little bit later. This is also going to be going into the Knowledge Commons, which we'll also talk about a little bit later. But I think over one semester, we had about 115 hours booked in there. And these were students that were coming in, recording presentations and turning presentations videos into their instructor for large enrollment classes. So this is a pretty neat new capability for us, the really super streamlined video studio that's enabling sort of a more streamlined, quick workflow for students that want to kind of casually go in there and do things like presentation practice. So that's a new thing for us, and it's really being successful. I think that's a good indication of how successful the one-button studio is going to be. And over the last year, we've had a couple different events, the Forum on Media and Gaming, the last Tailgate, the Media Commons 101s. We've had about 280 faculty and staff total in those, so really getting the word out about Media Commons through those things pretty successfully. I want to talk about some of the things that are going on at University Park over the last year and upcoming, and I'll start with a new space that we have in Earth and Mineral Sciences. Tim Robinson's here. He works in that space. This is a really cool space. We tried to do some new things with this. This is something that Hannah designed. And we put some new technologies in here. We have a smartboard in here and kind of integrated that in a way that's really, I think, going to change the types of instruction and type of things that faculty do within this room. Sound booths and some other kind of traditional Media Commons things in there. But it's a really neat room. It's in Hostler Building if you want to have some time today or tomorrow to go check it out. It's a pretty nice space. This is our second partnership with the college, the other being the AgSci. So that's pretty exciting for us, and we're really doing a good job, I think, of integrating this space into the EMS curriculum. Knowledge Commons. So if you were here at Tailgate last year, you might have heard us talk quite a bit about the Knowledge Commons, and we're still kind of talking about it but not showing it because it kind of got pushed back. There were some problems with the flooring in the space that this was going into. So parts of this have been implemented. If you're walking around the library, you'll notice there's lots of places where you can only get access with hard hats. What you're looking at right there, you can only access with hard hats right now, but we promise you it will look exactly like that by early January. It's a really exciting space. Media Commons has a really good presence in that space, and this is a really good example of our partnership with the library, our gracious host for this event today. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the things that are going on at the campus and how Knowledge Commons here has affected some of the relationships that we've had with campus libraries. So in terms of our campus support, we have two relatively new staff, Nick Merker, who's supporting the eastern campuses, western campuses, and Carla Rapp, who's supporting the eastern campuses. And one interesting thing that I want to announce, if you guys aren't aware, is that we've switched to having these guys both telecommute. So they're actually going to be moving into the regions of their respective campuses. So Carla's going to be moving into the Philadelphia area, Nick's going to be moving into the Pittsburgh area, which is going to allow them to spend a lot more time, quality time at the campuses, and a lot less time in the car traveling, which I'm sure is going to save both of their sanities. And really, I think, improve the service that we provide to the campuses. So that's really cool. One of the programs that Carla and Nick did come up with that I think was really successful this year was the Media Commons 101. I think they hit just about every single campus. And this was sort of an open house introduction to Media Commons. We had tons of people come out for these, and it was actually quite a few new people, new faces coming out to these, so that was really good, lots of faculty. So just a great way to build awareness and identify some new projects for the semesters. We did the Forum on Media and Gaming in Harrisburg, another really successful event, sort of a spin-off event to the Tailgate. I want to talk about a couple spaces, and this is not a comprehensive list. There's really great stuff going on at every campus. Just want to highlight a couple. There's a new space in downtown Altoona that we're working on having some presence there. But overall, really cool new spaces in Altoona, some new renovated buildings that I think that we're going to talk about in a bit. So those are just some images of what those look like. Brandywine has kind of a renovated space. They had some issues with their library, and they're just kind of back online just as of a few weeks ago. And so we have some new spaces there. Harrisburg, John Ho will talk a little bit about this, but a great Media Commons right in the center of their library, another example of a really good partnership with the libraries and Media Commons. And just a kind of heads up, this is something we're still planning, but we're going to do our next Forum on Media and Gaming at Berks in one of their brand new buildings. I believe it'll be in that building. So that's still planning, but that's going to be somewhere in the February-March timeframe. I mentioned some of this deepening partnerships that we've had with the libraries. With the success that we've had with the Knowledge Commons and just in general working with the libraries here, we've started to go to the campuses and really talk about how we can extend that relationship. We did a workshop yesterday on scholarly storytelling. I think that was an example of the kinds of resources and instruction that Media Commons can provide in partnership with the libraries to really raise the bar for media projects and get them to be much more of a higher level intellectual activity for students. So that's something that's benefited from that relationship. And we're really extending that and talking to the libraries at the different campuses to see how more closely we can work together. So that's been really a great positive experience. And again, lots more stuff happening at the campuses. And I think that between this keynote session and the session at the end of the day, panel, you'll have some opportunities to share some of your own great learning spaces. One Button Studio, we'll demo that later. That's something that's going to be part of the Knowledge Commons, and hopefully we're going to be able to offer that to the campuses soon. Mobile Media Pilot, we have a panel about that. A great program so far. We've worked with quite a few faculty in some interesting projects. We're starting to learn a little bit more about mobile learning. And these are just some of the little kind of bio headshots of some of the faculty that we've worked with over the last couple semesters. And you can find more at Media Commons PSU.edu/mobile media if you want to go and drill in and look at some of the what these projects were all about and some examples. There's some pretty cool examples that students have created using just iPod touches. And actually, we have a student sitting right up front that's using one of our iPod touches to film this right now, so it's pretty neat. And finally, I do want to mentioned the EGC, the Educational Gaming Commons. Chris Stubbs is here. He's going to talk about this a little bit later today. We're continuing to explore how we can integrate educational gaming into what Media Commons does. EGC just launched a brand new website. It's gaming.psu.edu if you want to go and check out that site and find out a little bit about how you can get involved. I definitely recommend checking out gaming.psu.edu. So without further ado, that's my State of the Union, State of the Media Commons, State of the Union.